Hey friend, Clay here. This conversation was special for me. Got to spend time with my friend Jared, sharing stories about his transition, taking over as CEO of Habakkuk, local distributorship, orthopedic distributorship in Oklahoma City. We go back kind of on his journey that led to this opportunity. We glean some insights about how to have a healthy transition or a successful transition. And I think that will be encouraging and entertaining to you because Jared and I always have a good time together. So give it a listen, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Restoration Group podcast, where we are definitely sometimes silly, but always serious about investing in Oklahoma City leaders who desire to integrate their work into their Christian faith. I'm your host, Clay Steves, and today I am joined by my longtime friend, my partner, my quarterback. That's what it is. He's my quarterback. That's right. Like T.O. with Tony. Right. Like, he's my quarterback. With my quarterback, Jared Allen. Sometimes in life, you're privileged to work with. You're privileged to work with a special leader who's also a close friend, a person who simultaneously inspires, challenges, and knows you. Like knows you, all the bad stuff, all the good stuff, everything knows you. And Jared, my listeners and viewers, dear friends, Jared is one of those people for me. And as iron sharpens iron, Jared has consistently invested in me for years. And so many other young men, even when you were a coach, young men and women at our businesses that we've worked in, the orthopedic community that you've served. You have invested in so many as a servant leader, Jared, and as a follower of Jesus. So you walk with a posture of humility and what God calls you to do, man. Not in perfect execution, but in perfect, I would say, in a sincere heart and humility to follow God, to lead Bryn, to lead your family. And so, also practically, it was also just promoted to be the CEO of Habakkuk.
That's right.
I got my Habakkuk mug right here in the video shot. I got that swag going. Don't you worry, get the promo. And so really excited to talk about that and a little bit of that journey. And also, viewers and listeners, episode 5. You got to go way back, but episode 5, this is Jared's second time on the podcast as a guest. He tells some good stories about Coach Schnellenberger, about getting the mic in an auditorium of people unexpectedly.
Andy Roddick.
Yeah, Andy Roddick. Oh, that's right. It was Andy Roddick. That's right. Some good stories from back then. But Jared, man, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here, man. I really do. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to get here and spend some time with you and talk and collaborate on what's been going on with not only with me, but Habakkuk, with you. And thanks for the words. I really do. I always appreciate it. Just hearing you going through the journey that we've been on, to say the least. It's been good, man. It's all. I think that we'll probably get into some of this, but I wish I had some of the practices that we've gone through as a leadership team and/or a company, and what I've learned about myself. I wish I would have had that back when I was coaching. It would have been really beneficial. So, but it's just that was unprompted. It just kind of came to me when we were talking about that. Man, that would have been good to have in other areas and seasons of life as well. So,
yeah. So let's do maybe just a little timeline review, right? So we're recording this in early 2024. Mm-hmm. You have been with Habakkuk for the last 8 years, almost 8 years.
February of 2017.
Yep.
So when I started, but our process, you came out to Florida in 2016.
Okay.
So we're coming up on 8 years for that process to get going.
Yeah. And then you were in coaching for 8 years before that?
Correct.
Okay, maybe that's where the 8 is in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So you were coaching in South Florida at Florida Atlantic University for 8 years through multiple transitions and turnovers there, meaning staff-wise, which I think is relevant to some of this conversation, even if we think about like transitions and et cetera, maybe. And then prior to that, you had some medical device experience before going into coaching as well, correct?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to work for Brandon Rouse and Greg Aplotnik in early days of my career, but just after football, after I finished playing NFL Europe and with the Bucks for a cup of coffee. But but as I transitioned back, I went.
Did you get a paycheck? That's all. I mean, did you get a paycheck from the Tampa Bay Bucks?
I was paid to play football.
There it is. That counts. That's enough for me.
Yeah, enough to get gas money.
I was about to buy that cup of coffee. That was enough to buy the coffee.
Yeah, no, I had some early experience in spine with some guys named Robbie Melton and Brady Klein, and those worked. It was a great experience for me.
Yeah.
I just felt led to. I was training quarterbacks on the side. And we did some quarterback camps and challenges, which you were a part of way back in the day.
Yeah, if we want to talk about like old school friendship, Jared used to have me, or maybe I volunteered, I don't know. Yeah, I was like his target man. Yeah. So as he was training high school quarterbacks while also being a spine rep and preparing to go back, like you would have me like stand in the corner while they were doing like boot stuff in gyms, and I was catching balls.
Yeah, that's right. And we had a high school competition for the best quarterbacks in the state of Oklahoma, and I had a bunch of people I knew drive John Deeres with big targets on them, and I had people come, and Mark Rogers is doing the radio or the play-by-play. Yeah. So all that was going on, and so I had the desire to get back into coaching, and that's when I called Cut Schellenberger. Yeah, and he tried to talk me out of it. So,
wow. Yeah.
But then, anyways, that's how I got to Florida Atlantic for coaching.
Yeah, so that's just a little, for our viewers and listeners, it's a little background and context.
Sure.
I'd also encourage you to go listen to the other conversations. We dive into other elements of the story, but I'm just trying to paint some transitional timelines for the last, that's 15 years now.
Sure.
Yeah, that really is 15 years. Because that will shape, as we kind of referenced in the intro, that Jared has now, as of January 1st, 2024, taken over as CEO of Habakkuk, which is a company that I had the privilege of founding over a decade ago, has been a small business integrating its work into its Christian faith here in Oklahoma City for the last 10 years. And so, man, while we are early in the transition, so we have to also recognize it's very early.
10 days in.
We are early in the transition. It's something we worked on for a long time. We were very intentional behind the scenes. It was a very, I would say, thought out, thorough, vetted process.
Correct.
And so as you think on the last, think as long as you want on the journey to this, what elements were present that you think led to it being successful up to this point, to where you and I, we're still friends at this point. Yeah, we're still working together. I think the companies have responded really, really well, both Restoration Group and Habakkuk. What do you think was present that led to a successful transition up to this point?
I think you mentioned it before. And it's funny because I was talking to Brent about some of these questions, and always value her insight. She always thinks of stuff that I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that's why we complete each other, babe, right? But she just the intentionality behind it and the process that it took. I can be very impulsive, if you know me. If I get on something, I can make a decision. I tend to say yes more than no. I tend to, if I have an idea, let's roll with it, let's go. But the intentionality, and I actually felt led to take some time. I think it was very important for Habakkuk, for Clay, and for myself to take a step back and let the process take shape and let this marinate, the idea of it marinate, because I had to come to a realization, and maybe this goes back to the coaching transitions that I went through, that, maybe I'm not the best person for the job, and maybe somebody else is, and I had to be prepared for that, knowing that maybe there's another person that God has to lead Habakkuk in the season. Not that I wouldn't be in the future, but I have to be respectful of what you are led to do in that situation. Meaning that you were the founder, 10 years in, and maybe there was a season that you had, and so I had to be aware of that. I didn't want to assume or just anticipate that I was just going to get it. Because also going through that process, it helped me. It helped me realize, let me take a step back, and a lot of this is in Q4, to be honest, and it was tough because you're in the weeds.
It's hot and heavy time.
If in the medical device industry, Q4, even Q3 too, is we're trying to get to the finish line, and we've had some rep transitions. So I was in it. I was in it from just trying to win the day, which you'll hear that a lot.
Go 1-0.
Just trying to go 1-0.
Just trying to go 1-0, coach.
And so letting my mind get to the future of being the CEO was difficult at times. But I will say that looking back, the intentionality, the time that we gave ourselves, we didn't we've been talking about this for months, and it was not something that was we didn't fall into it. And so I think the intentionality piece is the one thing.
Yeah, I think we were having as a leadership team. We were back beginning of the year, even maybe into 22. I mean, I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
like, we were over a year very intentionally beginning to have internal discussions about how.
And then, you're right. And then the timeline came more into focus.
Yes.
And even changed a little bit.
Yeah. I moved it up. You're
Q2
correct.
or Q3 time frame.
Yeah. And there was an external process. There was like a decision-making process about how we would make a decision.
Sure.
Right. And how we would vet it and what we look at, so all of that was under evaluation. And for the listeners, Jared didn't say this, but I want to pull it out and make sure I point it out. The thing that also was very present, Jared, was a high level of self-awareness that you carried through that time.
Sure.
Because you articulated right there where you talked about, I can shoot from the hip. I can be I can be a yes man. I can go. Because you have such big shoulders. You have such high energy. You have such high charisma. Yeah. All God-given gifts. Yeah. that you, why are you smirking like that? No. Why are you smirking like that?
I don't know. You said big shoulders. I've been lifting, so I wanted to. I was being impulsive to make a joke when I pulled back.
That was good impulse control.
It was.
Well done.
Yeah,
good
well,
job.
I'm around my dad a lot too, and I'm like, Dad, God, you gotta. I'm trying to. Come on, man. You don't need to say that.
That's when we figure out how old we are.
Correct.
We're like, woo, okay. But sincerely, I think that level of awareness that you carried, which doesn't come overnight.
Yeah.
Then created an opportunity because I admired and I thought it was quite remarkable to watch as you and I began to discuss, like, hey man, what would you think about being the CEO? What do you think about this idea? So it wasn't a new idea about me transitioning out of that role. It was the new idea of like you taking it.
Sure.
And we began to discuss that. Your level of self-awareness made you slow down more. Sure. Like I didn't tell you to slow down. Yeah. I just observed you on your own be like, oh my gosh, I know I can just like ready, aim, fire. Yeah. This is a big deal. I need to slow down to evaluate this, talk about this, think about this, while also continuing to run at 100 miles an hour because, as you said, in the med device world, the back half of the year is busy because it's an elective surgery. People have met their deductibles. They're getting those in. It's holiday season. So people are taking off meaning surgeons are taking off whole weeks and then jamming those weeks into the other weeks around it, et cetera. I think the awareness that you carried was one of the elements that was very essential towards it being successful so far.
Yeah. No, I think that, and that's, that has been focuses over the last few years at different times, whether it's learning that we can't take every manufacturer that we come across. A matter of fact, because when you get spread too thin, you're mile wide, inch deep, and you're not focused and or moving the needle in any of them. You're just kind of mediocre at all of them. So I've learned that lesson, and more recently in our current work of partnering with different manufacturers. Not every one of them is a good fit, or if they are, it may not be now. So learning that lesson is one of the things I would say that's taught me in that to maybe not be quite as impulsive.
What was unexpected in the process? So if we look at the back half of 2023, what did you learn? What caught you off guard in it? Even as we're trying to be intentional, as we try to be self-aware, were there any unexpected elements?
I'm trying to remember what. This was one of the ones as I was processing. I really don't know what was unexpected. I think that slowing down to let the process roll, that wasn't unexpected. I needed to think through that. I don't know. I don't think there was really much you and I have been talking for a while about it, so there was nothing really. I just remember communicating to you, like I'm in the weeds right now. Like I didn't want to say limping into the CEO's job, but I was just trying to finish strong where I was.
Well, you were limping, but that wasn't because of this stuff.
That's true. That's true.
We won't get into that whole story. But
my left ankle's a mess. So flat foot, everything, all kinds of stuff. So multiple basketball injuries and so forth. But anyways,
we're paying bills. We're paying bills from when we were younger and making decisions. Yeah,
that's right. I don't know if there was a lot of expectations that I wasn't aware of in that process, or unexpected things that popped up. I don't know if there's anything on your end during the process.
Well, you and I have. So this is one of the fun, intriguing things, viewers, listeners that Jared and I have in common, right? So obviously we've known each other since we were 8 or 9 years old. literally, I think it's like 1989. So that'd be 7 years old for the two of us.
Yeah.
We have worked together for 7 years. We are both ENFP, Enneagram 7s. Yeah. And so when you we both love sports, so there's tons of overlap. Like if you look at that, I'm going to tell you, Jared and I are very, 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 very different people. Right. And I think sometimes I very much had assumptions like, oh, well, there's so much alignment. We have so much common ground. We both love Jesus. We both were raised, like all these kind of elements. Even typically, I think like politically, like we fall in a lot of the same area. So I just think that can lead me sometimes to have assumptions that we're going to respond the same way, view things the same way because we're the same wiring, gifting. Yeah. So I think that was an old lesson for me. Sure. That in this process, it was your calm, your composure. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say it was unexpected because I've seen you in high stress situations be calm, but it was just reinforcing to see that was because if we can go back to 2021 as leaders together, we went through some, business-wise, one of our toughest seasons, and I won't say it for you, I would say for the business and for me, it was a really, really hard season. And to watch your continued, I'm going to say steadiness, because you're talking about, we did have some turnover at the end of this last year. It was busy season. I was beginning to put a lot of focus into the restoration group in the transition period. You were grabbing this, and there was just a steadiness. Of continuing to produce. So again, I wouldn't say it was unexpected, but I would say it was a reinforcing element for me. Like, oh my gosh, Jared not only wants the ball, like he knows what he's doing. It was a very freeing thing for me. And so, as a founder, like you always view the company like so many of us founders and people I know will relate. Like that's my baby. I could never let it go. I could never trust anybody to do it. Yeah. It was incredibly. I'm not going to say it was easy. It was natural for me to be able to trust you with it because of just who you are and seeing those elements in you. Yeah. So maybe that naturalness for me was unexpected. Okay. I don't know.
Well, we're only 10 days into this thing right now and moving from like the process, but like the last 10 days, the unexpected part for me probably was some of the response. I wasn't expecting, even when Habakkuk put out the social media restoration group, I wouldn't even expecting people to really, oh yeah, congrats or here and there, but like I just wasn't. That threw me off a little bit. Like I almost wasn't even prepared for like and the LinkedIn clarify, or just the
positive response.
The positive response in a way of like congrats and those type of things. I didn't really go there mentally, So that was a little unexpected. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Even the announcement or anything. I was just. Rolling, man. Just go. Let's go. We're into 24. Let's go. Let's go. So
well, I think that's because you and I, now if I go back to a similarity, we can sometimes not slow down to celebrate.
Correct. Yeah.
Because we care about going 1-0, winning the next game, producing the next result, finding the next opportunity, serving the next surgeon, all those elements that we, I think, lead to success. Yeah. Also can be the thing that are. That was completely expected by me, just so you're aware. Oh yeah. Just so you know. Oh yeah. I mean, I that was actually some of the most fun in the transition. Yeah. Was watching people send me messages that I know you never got that are like, dude, what a great decision. Incredible man. Yeah. Stud, will lead well. And so that was a really fun part of the process. Sure. Yeah. Was watching that, which I also expected that people
big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill.
They're pretty small feet. Don't worry about it. Okay. So let's I want to talk about an organization. That you have invested in, time, resource, energy, money, all the things that I know you care about that I didn't know anything about till you brought it into my life. I'd never even heard of it. And then I want to talk about its influence on you, and then maybe tether out a few things after that. So talk to me about CBMC and what it is as an organization, how you came to know it when that was, and what it means to you as a leader.
Sure. Yeah. Christian Business Men's Connection. I was introduced by Adrian Svager, longtime friend.
What's up, Adrian?
Went to high school with Adrian. He is a longtime coach through high school and collegiate baseball. Has done a lot of the international ministries with baseball as well. And so when he got out of coaching to get into CBMC, I was at a point just as the VP of sales and acknowledging the fact that I do need something or someone really that's Christ focused. Meeting. I need to meet with somebody. I need to be able to talk through, and so I just started meeting with Adrian, not really knowing what CBMC was, and so we just started meeting every other week. And
are we in what year was
21?
That? Okay,
yeah, 21, fall of 21, I think is when it was.
Bro, that was when it all went down.
Yeah,
I mean that was
it was.
Yeah.
So we've been meeting for a while, and then just this rhythm. We'd go through. There's a mentorship program they have through there, and their whole goal. I mean, I can't spit out verbatim what their mission and vision is right now, but long story short, CBMC is outside the walls of the church and gets into the businesses around. And this our area is OKC, but they're an international organization, and so what they want to do is they want to, through business and through the platforms that we are in, try to reach people and or mentor people to be disciples for Christ, and so and also help us navigate the things that so many of us go through in situations that come up in business, in different industries and those type of things. And so it kind of grew from that. And I just really, appreciated Adrian's intentionality into my life, not only through prayer, but just like he connected me with other guys or other guys in the community that may be going through something similar.
Yeah.
And then this past fall, this past fall, like I would say fall of 23, I started going to this trusted advisory group that CBMC puts up. Okay. And that's a group of about 12 to 14 men that all are in the arena of either owning their company or a CEO and or a VP, something where they're leading people. I should say, I shouldn't put it just the title, but they're leading people in some way. That way, and it's all through the filter of CBMC and Christ focused. Yeah. And that was through Randy Camp and Brent Vodder, who are through CBMC. Yeah. And that group was more focused on the stuff, the day-to-day, the managing, the sales, the strategy, but also how's your families, how you leading, work-life balance, and then, of course, that's just once a month. But so in that combination is where CBMC has really impacted the last, year and a half, 2 years. Yeah.
So I want to spend some time here for a second, because I think this is, I want to share a part of my journey with that season.
Sure.
Because when and this is on my side of the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That when you first started going, because that was a heavy season for us. So we're talking about 21.
Yep.
And when I say that, I'm just meaning it's a challenging business season for us, right? We lost something like 24% of our top line revenue. Mm-hmm. We were going through high employee turnover and like people violating agreements, going to competitors. Like, I mean, it was and you and I were processing our leadership, what's going on. This is part of the Great Resignation. So now we're talking about like the COVID world and all those. Like, it was a challenging time business wise. Okay. There was a piece I began to, Kevin Penry, dear friend of you and I, right? Great leader in our lives. He always talks about, in the kingdom, there are no fences.
That's correct.
And I just love that phrase. Yeah. I think as a leader, especially, and again, I'm talking to our listeners, viewers, if you're a Christian leader, right, deeply love Jesus, believe your work, whether it's your business or the place you work, is a part of your ministry, I can fall into a trap of thinking that like this space in this area is the only place that is happening, or when really I think that's just a control piece, where we are trying to control a scenario. Yeah. And I actually processed a lot, Jay, that was like, I was losing my influence in your life. And I mean, it's taken me years to even kind of get to recognize what I was going through, because a lot of things were spinning. You and I were like trying to hold on to the business. We're like, it's kind of like down to the right season. We were held out of certain contracts, and it was like, wow, this is how a longtime friendship, a business partnership that's been good, begins to grow apart. That was what I was internally, that was my fear point. Because other voices were beginning to have an influence on you.
Sure.
Now, for the record, I now sit and be like, thank God for those incredible voices in your life. And I want more of them. And so I just share that to say, one, if you as a leader are going through that, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a natural, I think that's a natural reactive response in that type of, if you're in a high stress scenario and your trusted people begin to, like, you can understand why it'd be like, oh, I don't know that I want other voices. But the truth of the matter is you do want other voices if they are grounded in Christ.
Correct. Yeah.
If they genuinely care about your people, you actually want those voices speaking in, and you shouldn't be afraid of it.
Sure.
And you should cultivate and encourage it, because I will share that I think was one of the beautiful blessings, even for you and I, is it began to add outside perspective that you would then bring to the table that just wasn't what we could come up with.
Sure.
And so I just share some of my own story from back then of my own insecurity. Yeah. As a leader, and how I think your proactive nature, your intentionality to build community, that because I know those people, but I don't interact with them. They're not, and I think that's actually for the greater good. Of even Habakkuk. Which is a side avenue. So I don't know. I just share all that. Do you have any thoughts? Does that stir anything in you?
Oh yeah. I think that's just a good awareness piece, even for myself, like even for our reps or depending on, I think the key was on that was, what's the intention of the people that you're allowing in, whether it's for anybody, but what's the intentions of it? And so for me, I had a good season with CBMC before I went to the Trusted Advisor Group with just Adrian and I. And it was more of a discipleship.
That's good.
I mean, and nothing to do with business, like more of like, man, how's your quiet times? How's your time with God, really? Are you, first things first, right? And all these things will be added, right? So it was more of getting back to the foundation of that. So I had a good season of that before really the business stuff, and yes, we process things because during that time, yes, a lot of those things happened and we talked about in 21, but really 22 is when you started to feel a lot of that.
Correct.
So we went through a lot of that. And so that's where I remember processing a lot of that with Adrian.
And by that, we mean like financial tensions. Both of us in previous seasons had made a lot more money. And then in 22, it was the opposite direction of that. And we both felt that deeply.
Correct. Yeah. And then just with hires and just reps, transition, all that type of stuff. So, I think that, but that is good awareness. I wasn't aware of that. I could see to me, that would be human nature. Like just, I go back to like a head coach or something and you start having an assistant coach who's getting advice or something from outside and the antennas go up, or like the they're paranoid or, what's going on here. Yeah. I think that'd be natural, feeling that you have to either combat or just be aware of.
Yeah, and I was not. And I think that's if we go to like reactive tendencies underneath the surface stuff, I've been praying and processing that as I reflect on the last 6 months of what's gone so well. That was something that I've been sifting out about, because like you said, that was a time of where we were having mistrust happen around us a lot. Yeah. Because a lot of outside influences were pulling. And so all of a sudden, I think that lens began to put on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I just encourage any leaders, like maybe a lesson there is to recognize God is bigger than all of it.
Yeah.
In both sides of that, whether there's outside influences on some of your people, like God is overarching in that.
Sure.
You have crucial conversations, lean into those things, but then also look for the fruit. Because I can think back to, while my tendency might have been mistrust, that's also the season that I can remember you were doing your memorization stuff with the Bible, which I would see in our internal systems. Yeah. Right. We use 15.5, which is this weekly thing, which Jared and I have a wonderful love-hate relationship with. But it really is, I think, just like a touch point awareness tool. And I remember you going through this memorization thing of scripture and being like, man, if that's what is a tangible thing that I see here that's happening, like whether I'm reactively struggling through other things, that's fruit of the Spirit. Like that's great discipline. That's foundational. Trust that stuff. And so,
and it's imperfect because I still probably will have it in 2024. The same memorization system that I need to.
That's the journey. That's the journey.
Yeah. The habits there that CBMC is, or just the people that work for CBMC.
Yeah.
And really
Christ-centered women and men.
And they do a big prayer breakfast every year. And again, there's a lot of avenues and platforms, but I think that the more in our local area, I mean, yes, we exist to help restore life within the orthopedic community and, where we are in here in Oklahoma City, but like, that's just another partner that we can wrap our arms around and say, what else can we do? And so I think the more you're around those companies that are like-minded that way, that
yes,
opportunities will rise.
Yeah.
And from a business standpoint, those things may cross at some point.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger picture there.
Yeah. So I think if I'm pulling takeaways, right, there are no fences in the kingdom of God.
That's right.
And so if there are other businesses, like, again, businesses compete with each other, but like, if they are genuine and sincere, trying to integrate their work, like, that's seek counsel of those people, build community with them, learn from them. I think that is.
I mean, I just think in our industry, there's some awesome reps out there that we compete against. Yeah. That I high five in the hallway. How's your family doing? Like, it's just, we're in this thing and we may be competing at a certain level, but I mean, man, life's too short to be, holding grudges, And so, and again, we're not perfect. I mean, we're not perfect at all. But take a step back and look and just, I think we can, with some of those reps, and there's some really good ones out there that, man, they have an opportunity to help that patient through the surgeon that they're serving. Yeah. And so, man, that's a great thing. So,
and I think as a leader, so if there are any leaders who have like a leadership team or key leaders on their team, I would encourage you to be willing to encourage your people to seek outside counsel.
Sure. Yeah.
Seek other leadership thought. Don't fall in the trap of needing to be controlling of that or keep it only in-house. What? Oh,
I'm just like, that's 100% to where, I mean, I have a high school. We both have boys that are 11 days apart, but
we do.
Going through high school sports, I'm a big advocate of multi-sports. And we can take this podcast to that direction if you want.
But there's an interesting parallel there. I think the principle is the same.
As a coach, I mean, I think having your athlete, it's healthy for your athlete to get under the authority of another coach. Having that same authority all year, yes, different sports are good for. That's intriguing. I just think that for my son, who again is a multi-sport athlete who just decided not to play basketball. So but that was his choice, and it was because he wanted to go all in. It was the time he needed to focus. But again, I'm an advocate for multi-sports. I really am. So,
and one of the elements, the reasons isn't just the like physical nature, et cetera, but it's the different leadership,
different cultures they're under. Yeah. And different experiences, different coaching styles. I think, you can train up a little bit. And again, if you're an athlete who's chosen one sport, it's okay. I mean, but it may be okay to go get some different coaches in your life, which they, again, this time in age, like there's a lot of personalized sports training going on. So I don't think we have a problem with that, especially in Edmond. So, I mean, there's coaches at every corner doing something. So, but anyway, so I think that correlates pretty nice to get under some different authority, leadership, or people speaking into your life. And again, I will say though, that like, if you're vulnerable and don't really know who you are, it depends who you have speaking into you. That's very risky as well. Yeah. So
I think that's the discernment piece, right? And that's where then you can take that to other people and get their perspective, and that then allows you to begin to discern and
that's right.
Yeah, mitigate that. Yeah. Any other thoughts in this space? The transition, leadership, outside thoughts, before maybe we talk about more.
Yeah.
More.
No, I think this has been good. I think it's been healthy and just good reflection on the most recent transitions, which led to a lot of other the whys behind a lot of those and the experience factor. So
cool. Okay, so thinking back, 2017, that was your first year at Habakkuk?
Yeah, February 1,
2017. We had a vision night. We had a big event, invited the community. It was in our warehouse.
Yep.
And you spoke at that event. And I vividly remember, after calling your dad out from the stage, which is standard protocol.
Of course. Just looking for Big L, and I see him, and I was like, man, wrap it up.
He was trying to get the crowd quiet. Yeah. And like everybody gets quiet except for his dad. It was awesome. And so you called your dad out from the stage.
And that was not unexpected, by the way.
Speaking of things you expected, we love you, Big L. But in that talk, I remember you vividly saying that you weren't going to leave coaching. You weren't going to move your family halfway across the country. You weren't going to uproot what you had invested so much into, right? I mean, you had been football, and football as a vocation,
Sure,
had been a foundational piece of your life.
Yeah.
There was you had a break in between there for 2 years of medical sales.
Yeah.
But I mean, you had played football your whole life. Your family, football was a big part of it. You had played in the league. You had played in Europe. You'd come back and coach college football for 8 years.
Sure.
And you were articulating, I wasn't going to come back from medical sales and just a medical sales job. I want a medical sales job. I want something that has more to it. More. Yeah. That was just a phrase you had used in the talk. And of course, that's our alignment of integrating work into Christian faith, of purpose, of investing in the next generation more, thinking legacy, thinking generational impact through the kingdom of God, and allowing your work to be a vocation more. Yep. Now that you're 7 years in, and now that you're sitting in the chair as the CEO of the company, how is your perspective on the importance of that more? Right. So you're talking to entrepreneurs, leaders, integrating their work in their faith, that more. How's your perspective changed on that in the last 7 years?
No, I think it's gotten deeper, to be honest. I think if you're listening to this or watching, I think you need to know your why, because then the perseverance is going to have to come, And so when you go through those times when it's difficult, and even when I was in coaching, that's where I felt I needed to be. So with 3 staff transitions, I could persevere through that, right? And so it's not all about, your mission for your whole life. It is that, but when you break it down, where your feet are at that time, are you supposed to be there? And so when I was at FAU, that's where I felt I needed to be. But when we were speaking in December of 2016, or maybe it was November, I can't remember. It was December. Mm-hmm. I communicated that I wanted to, because I had been in medical, and again, there's plenty of jobs that you can have a why in that. That's just me personally. I wanted to work and be a part of something bigger than myself. Yeah, and that was the more behind it, and just and some of that is the restoration side, the dual restoration, whether it be physical and spiritual, and a lot of that is the entrepreneurial side. To be honest, I mean that's the DNA makeup of a 7 and or a ENFP, kind of that, let's go see what we can muster up. let's go
stir this baby up right here, right now.
Let's go get creative. Yeah. But I knew there was a lot of learning curve there, and so the last 7 years has been that, just trying to learn the industry, and again, I'm still learning a lot daily. We'll never arrive.
That's right.
But sitting in this chair, though, nothing's changed. I mean, it's just deeper, right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, how fun is that it has been deeper and just grown over time as you've done it?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's when I got out of coaching and came here, I think internally I was like, we're making this work. Like we're not jumping, one of the reasons to get out of coaching was I was going to have to move around the country, and my kids would, and again, this is, it's not inherently bad by any means. I just think for Bryn and I and our families being here, we wanted to put some roots down. And so that's why. I mean, another thing too, I was like, hey, I found this opportunity. It's my heart. It seems there's a piece there. So let's make this thing work. As opposed to, having opportunities to go coach and stay into coaching, it was going to have to be, the reality is anywhere from 2 to 4 years is the average to be in a spot. So, and we just didn't want that as a family. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's intriguing if we look at how to discern it. Like, you had clarity as to what you guys wanted as a family. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's, that helped shape some of the decision-making process, right? I think that's critical, because if you don't know, correct, if you're sitting in that liminal space in between where you're like, I'm not satisfied, but I don't know the things that matter.
Yeah, 100%. And Bryn was on board with either. So she did not make me get out of, she did not make me get out of coaching. Now, after a couple of years out of coaching, she would let me back in. She's like, you have your weekends. It's unbelievable. Like, you're coaching your kids' teams. So, and Yeah. So that's why
Yeah.
I think that the reality of getting out and the different lifestyle change I'm going to be able to get back in.
Well, it's counting costs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Correct.
It's counting costs. And that's why it's not that there's anything wrong with any other profession. It's just counting costs, being on the same page with your spouse, pursuing what God has for you, and then making choices out of that.
Yeah. And as the kids were getting a little older, I mean, in Florida, they were still pretty young, but like, they were we had 4 kids and I think Creighton was.
You have 4 kids?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
One shy of you.
Yeah,
buddy.
I know.
I think when we moved, Creighton was in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Now he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
So, but I couldn't picture not being able to go to his games straight up. And that was just that's a filter. And that's like, I don't know if I can keep doing it. Now, if God wanted me to keep coaching and I felt the need to do it, then we would have continued and we would have crossed that bridge. But I was having a hard time with that.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why I was supposed to do something different. So.
Yeah. I'm intrigued about what you would say to somebody if they, what would you say to them if they're at the spot where you were before? So say they've got a stable job.
Yeah.
They've got the stirring that maybe it's time to make a move.
Yeah.
But they don't have the opportunity in front of them yet. Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, how would you encourage someone who's listening to this and is like, great, but like you had an opportunity, you went and did something. How would you encourage them? Like, what was your posture? So maybe even go to that last year. And I know like in the season, it's you're flooded and you're just in game mode.
Sure.
But like, how were you guys thinking about this? What was the posture? Like, what would you say to somebody who maybe hears, okay, great, but I don't know what the next thing is and I don't have another opportunity yet I'm not settled.
Sure.
I'm not settled. I don't have more. I don't feel that purpose. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
Like, how would you speak to somebody in that spot?
At first, you got to figure out what you need to you got to look inside first and see what you really, because the unsettling, there's something there. So you have to dig deep on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so you need to go through a process of that. And I don't know, that may be longer for some people than others of like, okay, what is your why? And there's a lot of different things out there to figure that out. There's a lot, but I think that you need to figure that out. And then of course, if you're married or get you and your spouse are on the same page, because the hard time will happen where you guys but if you're on the same page, you can handle it. Now, I don't know about the opportunity piece. I mean, that's, if you don't have any opportunities currently, then I think there are with social media now, and there's a lot of different, YouTube and Instagram, there's a lot of different resources out there.
Yeah.
But I would devote, if you're serious about it, you need to, your schedule comes in as far as like whatever your W-2 or your 9 to 5, whatever you're doing takes, be where your feet are, do that well. But I would schedule some time in to either become an expert and or learn on what you wanted to go to.
Yeah.
But it has to be intentional. You can't fall into that.
That's good.
So number one, just to get on the same page with your spouse if you have one, and then the other thing would be to internally inspect like what's going on, what's the stirring, what's the why, what's the unsettling piece. Figure that out as much as you can.
Yeah.
And to be able to take the next step.
Yeah.
And then start intentionally
blocking time and
working on something that you can go.
It's good. Yeah.
Go do. So.
You just like winged that up right there.
Yeah,
that wasn't
I don't
even
know.
prep stuff.
That's
that was
great.
good. It was like a 3-step plan. That was good.
Yeah. Man, I need to
you need
bottle
to
that up.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate you stirring through today.
You bet.
Sharon.
It was great.
Any other thoughts, avenues, rabbit trails that we want to run down? Want to talk about middle school coaching? What do you want to talk about?
We can go down there. But no, it's been great. Thank you so much for the time here today, and again, going back. I know going through transitions and indoor things when we've known each other for so long, those aren't always easy, and a lot of people have failed at doing that. And it's hard. So thank you for your leadership and your guidance in that process, and so it's I'm looking forward to representing the role in Habakkuk well and getting this thing rolling in 2024.
Yeah, brother. Appreciate you.
You bet.
To everybody viewing and listening, thank you for tuning in today. And until next time, choose life. Thanks for tuning in. To find out more about how Restoration Group can serve your business, go to restorationgroup.co or click the link in the show notes below.